Hi, everyone. I'm Sonia Alejandra Rodriguez. Welcome to another book talk where we celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Pura Belpre Award with the Latinx and Kidlit blog.
I'm Emily Aguilo-Perez, and today we are talking about Viva Frida, which was a medal, Pura Belpre medal winner for Illustrator in 2015. And this is a bilingual book about Frida Kahlo, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, me too. I have read a lot of Frida Kahlo's biographies, and she's a very popular topic in children's literature. But I've never seen a story about her life told in this way. And so I appreciate it. I appreciate what Yuyi Morales is doing in taking the artist perspective to tell the story. Yeah.
And for me, it's one of those where there are barely any words. I haven't counted how many words there are here, but so when we think about biography, a lot of times we think a lot of text because you want to read the person's whole life story. Yeah. But as I said, this is a very unique perspective and approach to it of highlighting the artist. And almost to me, these are affirmations in a way.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
I live, I love, and it's kind of like these actions from Frida's life, but that can also be kind of affirmations for the reader.
Yeah, I agree. I hadn't read it that way, but I can see that. And so even as you're saying that, in terms of the bilingual book, I'll show one of them, right? But you could see, right, that it's the English, right? I live, but then right above it, right, is the Spanish, right? So I like this take on the bilingual book because usually you'll see the separation of the languages, one on one page, the other on another page, or top English, top or the bottom is Spanish. But I like that there's an overlay effect, maybe kind of like an echo of these words. And so again, like an affirmation, even if you're saying it in English or in Spanish, right? Like the meaning, the feeling, the sentiment, right, is the same. So I like how that comes together.
Yeah. And also that even in that, both of them together, the Spanish it's interesting the way, I don't know if in the video people can actually see the Spanish because it's a little lighter.
Yeah, it's like a little gray.
But I do, I appreciate the kind of, as you said, they're kind of working together, but they also, each one has their side. Oh, and that one you can see it better.
Yeah, because of the background, with the darker background. Yeah.
The Spanish being slightly over or sometimes a little larger than the English, it kind of maybe asks the reader to read it in Spanish first. And as I appreciate that as someone whose first language is Spanish, where I can say it in Spanish first, or it doesn't always kind of make English the first language that you see. Yeah. The Spanish translation. So
I kind of see that too. Yeah, that's awesome. And then even just I'm just gonna keep calling them affirmations. We're doing these affirmations, what we're seeing about Frida Kahlo in particular. She feels like a very normal person, in the sense that she's just a regular woman wanting to just be an artist, right? It's I live, I love, I play, I create, right? And I feel like Yuyi brings Frida Kahlo into one of us kind of level, which I think can be very important, very powerful, for the reader, especially for young readers, right? How even these large celebrities, the large icons, right, are people, humans with desires and needs, right?
And you do, you play, and that artistry is creative, but it's also playful too. Yeah. That it's especially for children reading it, that you as you play, as you explore, you're you're being creative and you're kind of exploring your artist side, which I think is a very important thing to do.
Yeah, I want to find that illustration where it says I play, because Frida looks very like mischievous, very like she's up to something, but also just like having fun, right? Like being playful, right? And this is the spread, and there's a lead up to it, right, where Frida and her little monkey are looking at a little box, and they find a puppet inside. Right.
I thinking about play, specifically the way that this book, I mean, I love Yuyi, like her creations. They're so, I mean, she has all these techniques, and I feel like in every book you see something new and different. And for this one, oh yeah, I love the stuff of those. In this one, like this page where it has Sueño, I dream, I like combines different techniques, because there's some of her like illustration, but then you can see up close the dolls that she has created for these illustrations, and you can see very up close the textures of these. Even like when you look at the dog and the monkey, you can see how textures are, and then the flowers, and then yes, the illustrations floating above. So like it's a really it kind of captures the range of her.
Yeah. This is my favorite of her artistry, right? The range of like her talent, the range of how she captures stories. Yeah. And so what I found different about this art, because this is also my first time like of reading the book, was for this conversation, was her puppetry, right? She makes puppets, which is very like Pura Belpre-esque, right?
Yeah. Of that, yes.
Yeah, and so these are puppets, right? So the illustrations that you just pointed to me look more like paintings, which are very traditional of the Yuyi style with the texture. But I'd never seen her do puppets, and so these are like they're puppets or clay. What is it? Clay motion, clay animation, and then they're like they had photographs taken of it, right? Of this claymation, and so I was like, oh, wow, how very like like appropriate. And that you use putting all of these together, right? Frida Kahlo, Pura Belpre, and her artistry, right?
And that she's competing. I mean, I'm trying to remember. I should have looked it up. But who is photographing? Because it might not have been Yuyi.
No, it was someone else, and I don't have the name in front of me.
But even like thinking about the different techniques and approaches here, so you have like the illustrations, and some of them, I mean, there's one illustration that has one page that has like a canvas, so there's like this traditional illustration in addition to like the Yuyi Morales type illustration, plus the creation of the dolls. And some of them, I mean, you have again like some of them made of felt or different materials, plus then someone photographing those puppets to create this image. I mean, I'm just like thinking, as someone who doesn't create necessarily art like that, but I'm very at all like with how people create, just like all the levels of creation here, just one spread, and then you have an entire book with all of these different techniques together.
Yeah, I would totally see like you know how I have like behind the music, like I would see like a behind the books of like how this gets made, and this would be one that would be like so cool to watch, like how you said, like how the photographer, like they set up a scene, right? And again, like we talked about how very few words there are here, like I play, which could mean a variety of things. And so I imagine Yuyi and the photographer had to set that scene of what like play looks like, or what it could have looked like for Frida, and what it looks like in her art. Yeah, I would totally see it behind the book.
That is a great idea.
I would watch a whole movie of this. I want to see how this is happening.
So yeah, I think, again, like thinking about how with very few words, there's a lot that is said. And of course, in this case, it's the illustrations are really telling a lot because, with I play or I love, there could be so many different things that go with that. And so for Yuyi, to choose like exactly what's going to accompany that and then be able to tell that story to us, it's so important. And also I want to know, as you said, like the behind the scene, like how do you choose like what is going to go with those words, because there are very few short words, and so what's going to be telling that through the
and I was also just thinking that like I think from reading a lot of picture books, I've noticed that they get like lengthier in terms of like the narration. There's a lot of text in them nowadays, and so it's very text heavy. And this is a book, right, that does like the opposite. So much of the story is dependent on the illustrations, right? Like the completeness of the story, the layers, the wholeness of the story is really dependent on these illustrations, right? Because these like phrases or these affirmations by themselves have a very different context, right? When you put them alongside Frida.
Yes.
And I think it's amazing how you thought of like doing this.
And I think I appreciated that in the author's note, she's also like, she titles it My Frida, and because then we see, this is how Yuyi Morales envisions Frida, right? And this is kind of like a celebration of her. I mean, it is called Viva Frida, so it's this celebration of that. And so it's not so much about telling the reader, she was born on this day or she did, but more about celebrating the essence of Frida and her playfulness, her human her humanity, that I think, because some of these artists become icons, and we see them everywhere. I mean, we see Frida stuff everywhere. We kind of forget that they're human. So as you had said, we kind of humanizes and kind of makes them people that we can relate to. And so I like that she's kind of explaining, this is how I see Frida, and this is, when I think of Frida, this is how I think of her. And then we see that manifest in her illustrations.
Yeah, I agree. And you're right. It's a very unique take on like what is considered like biography, right? You didn't take the traditional route of they were born this day, this is what makes them awesome, right? And this is how we know them now. But yeah, you're right. She did take this, it's like, this is my representation of her. And even though the book doesn't talk about like the impact that like Frida Kahlo had on Yuyi Morales' work, like it's obvious, right? Like the way that like, I mean, we just talked about all the layers that went into like the puppetry, the photographs, all of that. Like it's obvious that like the self, right, is in that as well. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me about Viva Frida by Yuyi Morales.
It's a pleasure talking about these books.
Yeah. Make sure you all subscribe, click all the links in the description, and we'll see you next time. Bye.